And finally, tonight, here at InfoWars Nightly News, I want to share with you personally what was one of the most surreal experiences of my life. I went to see Kill the Messenger. It's been out for about a week in the United States and worldwide, based on a book by Gary Webb, who was, of course, the journalist who wrote the Dark Alliance story back in the late 1990s about the CIA and the crack cocaine epidemic. And as I watched the 2-hour film, it was really more of a documentary than it was an action thriller based on a true story. And I've got to say that the producer and also the lead star, Jeremy Renner, deserves multiple Academy Awards for his lead role, because I knew Gary Webb and knew him well, and for the production. I don't know if it'll win all those awards because the average person or even the Academy doesn't have the inside knowledge I have on this. I knew Gary Webb very, very well. I never met him in person. I had to have interviewed him 15 times or more, sometimes for 2 hours at length on my syndicated radio show in the same time slot it is today. Because back then he was an outcast. He'd won all these awards for his Dark Alliance piece. They tried to discredit it, never really discrediting it. And of course, now it's been declassified just a month ago that the CIA admits that they did target him. They did try to destroy him. And watching the 2-hour film, I ran through the gamut of emotions. Intellectual realization of tyranny, what a hero Gary Webb was. I felt terrible for his friends, editors, and others that turned their back on him under the pressure and the propaganda, going through a lot of the similar things that Gary Webb has gone through. I empathized with him. And then all the interviews and all our private conversations began to come back to me, and I actually felt nauseated when the CIA was threatening his children, and when he had people breaking into the night to his apartment, and because I remember Gary Webb telling me about all this.
The general idea of the CIA dealing drugs was something that the American mainstream press had never written about before.
I remember Gary Webb sending me a disc of documents that he wanted me to put online for his new book that was coming out. And he wanted to break a lot of that information on my show because I was willing to do it. And then I also shared guilt with the rest of the people in the movie, because even though I'd had him on and knew the CIA was bringing in drugs, hell, they've been doing that since the 60s on record with opium out of Vietnam, it was that I already knew that. I'd already interviewed him a bunch. And so it was kind of an old story. And I thought it was a war we'd won getting the truth out. I didn't realize they were still destroying him, and he was fighting for his life. And he told me they were threatening him and breaking into his house. He told Freeway Ricky Ross, who I've interviewed probably 10 times as well, the first interview from prison. We got that with Kevin Booth years ago. Ross said on my show right after he committed suicide, after Webb died, that he had told him they were going to kill him. And how they do it is they come to your house, they say, we're going to kill your kids. If you don't, fill out this suicide note. And then they'll show you photos of your kids, you know, riding their motorcycle or getting off the school bus. And then they shot him twice in the head, and they undoubtedly murdered him. Then they threatened the family and they shut up. And I kept expecting in the movie that they would go along with the suicide narrative. They didn't do that. They clearly imply the CIA killed him. It's just a masterpiece. I mean, that's all I can say. And thank God this happened, because Gary Webb will now get his reputation back posthumously. And it will send a major message to the establishment that you can even kill the messenger, but that you can't kill the signal. I am now going to tear apart the 5 storage buildings we have with all our old books and videos and tapes and letters and tax documents to try to find that disc. And I'm also going to try to dig out all those interviews that should have been online, but we're having trouble finding them, to try to really make at least a documentary for InfoWars Nightly News, adding to the master work that the director and the producers have done with Kill the Messenger. If you see one movie in 2014, if you show your friends and family one film in 2014, if professors are going to recommend one film in 2014 for their college students to go see, it's this. Because I covered this in depth. I interviewed him and the other major players involved, famous Iran-Contra whistleblowers like Tosh Plumlee and countless others. I've probably interviewed, let's not exaggerate, 30 or more CIA whistleblowers, like Terry Reid, who was there at Mina loading the cocaine with Oliver North and Clinton. I mean, I've been in this as much as Gary Webb. I've been threatened over this. And I'm not here lionizing myself. I got nauseated when I realized I was right in the middle of this and am in such a haze covering all this stuff that I didn't even click that I was in the middle of this and didn't even appreciate Gary Webb wanting to work with me. And it makes me see all the other stories I drop. But you know what? I can't cover it all. My team can't handle it all either. That's what's so crazy about the level of corruption is it's just overwhelming. And while I was watching the movie, I remembered the last conversation I ever had with Webb. I kept saying, yeah, I'll put the website up. Yeah, I'll help you. And he called up and he said, man, they're destroying my life. I've got all the documents to prove it now. I've got this book coming out to vindicate myself. And you said you'd help me. And I'll even help you. I'll even pay you after I'm able to sell the book. They've taken everything I got. What the hell's your problem? Jones, you told me you'd help me. Nobody helps me, and slammed the phone down. And I thought, well, kind of a jerk, but I get why he's under attack, oh, whatever. And then his head's blown off a few months later. So whatever you do in your life, folks, stand up for whistleblowers, support them, go the extra mile. But in the final equation, he's been vindicated. And I don't know why the CIA came out a month ago and admitted that they targeted him and tried to destroy him and did all this. Maybe they feel guilty for what they've done. I don't know. Or maybe it's just a threat to all other journalists and they think this will create a chilling effect. It's just so sick. And now it's come out, the rest of the story, that they're running the Los Zetas crew. It's in the El Paso Times, the Chicago Tribune, that these drug dealers bringing in billions a month in cocaine and other drugs are admitting they work for the CIA to control the networks, that the big banks laundered 370-something million in drug money in a 2-year period. That was even in Bloomberg a few years ago. And no one gets in trouble. Gary Webb is and was a true hero. And when they threatened his children and his wife and his family, he didn't back down. And then I watched those actors playing the parts of the editors and the people at the San Jose Mercury News and how they turned their back on their friend. I didn't hate them. I felt sick at just the herd cowardly mentality that just runs through culture and runs through society today. And I almost didn't even do this review of the film because I don't know how you talk about something so real, so powerful. The actor playing Webb sounds like him, looks like him, acts like him. When he's getting frustrated in the movie and getting mad and yelling at people, I have been yelled at just like that. It's a nightmare almost to realize that I was living a nightmare and I was so busy covering so many stories, I didn't even realize how important it was. Because it wasn't just about the government bringing in drugs and the banks laundering the money and CIA aircraft crashing in Mexico and all the stuff that's come out since then. It was about them destroying the truth and destroying a man who stood up for what was right in the face of his house getting broken into and his car getting messed with and his kids getting threatened and losing his wife and her divorcing him and everybody turning their back on him and them just assassinating his character first before they killed him. And I realized that if they can assassinate my character or Ron Paul's character like they're trying to do, they had the White House attack us twice in the last week through Media Matters, that they will kill me. And that's why I got nauseated. It's not even the fear of death. It's that our weakness are these people's strength. And the fact that we lay down and are passive is why this corruption has grown and grown and grown. So throughout this piece, we've been flashing up some of these news articles that are here, but people should go back and read these about confirmed DEA struck a deal with Mexico's most notorious drug cartel. Confirmed Mexico drug plane used for CIA rendition or kidnap torture flights, or Operation Fast and Furious as a false flag. All of this is coming out. And it's because of people like Gary Webb breaking down that first layer, being the shock troop of truth, being on the very cutting edge of trying to bring justice to this society. It's people like him, the foundation that all of us, men and women of every race, color, and creed, stand together today. And they targeted this individual and destroyed this individual because they're afraid of the power of the individual. They're afraid of what people with truth and justice can do. And that's why I always end this transmission by saying, if you are watching or listening to this, you are the resistance. You do have power. We can make a better world. We can stand up for what's right. We can end this drug war and decriminalize. We can start shutting down the prisons. We can have an economy based on justice and based on innovation and based on exploration, not based on fraud, not based on SWAT teams and lawyers and huge prison complexes. We have the biggest prison population in the world. We have the worst levels of cancer and disease in the world. We've gone from the most blessed country to the most cursed by every metric. Well, that's it for this edition of InfoWars Nightly News. Great job of the crew earlier here in studio breaking it all down. Lord willing, I'll be back tomorrow live on the radio, 11 to 2 Central, InfoWars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. I want to salute the folks that put out Kill the Messenger. They've tried to kill me as a messenger. So I hope we can all come together in solidarity and promote liberty. And I hope the producers and the stars of the film will come on the show so that we can share our experiences together. But again, I salute the makers of this film for their courage. There's never been a film like this made before.